Greetings everyone, I'm Kevin and today I'm doing the Coffe Tag, which is a book tag involving coffee. And I love coffee, so it's great. The first prompt is black. Name a series that's tough to get into but has hardcore fans. And there is really just one series that comes to mind, and it's Shadowhunters, or The Mortal Instruments, or that whole world. I read the first book. I really did not like that book at all. I didn't like the characters. I didn't like the world. Intrigues me, but I don't like the characters. I really felt like they were very immature, and I didn't like the way that it was written. I loved the world and the whole idea behind everything, the ruins and everything like that. I just did not like the writing. I didn't like vibe with anything but the world building, which I found very interesting. So, and I know that it has a lot of hardcore fans. Like there's a big fandom for this series in this entire world, and it's just not for me. The next prompt is Peppermint mocha or mocha, I think it's mocha. Name a book that gets more popular during the winter or a festive time of the year. And I don't know. The only book that I can think of that I see every time that I look at lists with Christmassy or books to read during the holidays or in Christmas time, you know, anything December, is Dash and Lily. I've never read Dash and Lily, but I see it popping up every once in a while, always around Christmas time. And I know that it also has a TV series, so I think I have to go with Dash and Lily. Then we have the next prompt, which is hot chocolate. What is your favorite children's book? And I took a look at my bookcases with my read books and not my unread books. I have my unread books here, I have my read books here, like on this big shelf. And there was only really one book that I could go with. And it might even fit the camera, but it's Tänk That Fly. And this does not have an English translation as of yet. It was originally written in Dutch. It's extremely short. I don't know why they made it a hardcover. I mean, it's a children's book, so it's probably because of that. In Dutch, op de vlucht, meaning on the run. In Swedish, it's Tänk That Fly, meaning imagine being on the run. I guess you can say imagine running, specifically. And it's about this girl, and her whole world has shattered. It begins with imagine there's a war, and it looks like this. And the whole story is just imagine there's a war, imagine the school is empty, imagine like all of these things. And the art in this I just really love the art. And then the story is amazing as well. And I think even though this is a children's book, even though it's very, very short, it has such a huge impact. And every time that I read it, I cry. And a person in my family, my grandpa, he grew up in World War II. He was born in late 1930s in Germany, on the west side, or the Midwest side of Germany. And he kind of grew up during World War II, and he went through a lot of things. He experienced a lot of things as a German in that time, living where he lived, and the whole relationship to Hitler and the Holocaust and war. And so I imagine him and what he went through, what my family went through in Germany and coming to Sweden every time that I read this book. And so I cry because like this story is so impactful, as I said, even for such a short book. I really, really love this book, and it's my favorite children's book. Even though it has this huge and difficult topic that it deals with, it's told in such a way that it's easy to understand for kids, which I love. The next prompt is a double shot of espresso. It's to name a book that kept you on the edge of your seat from start to finish. And I have to go with The Last Thing You Told Me. It's a thriller, and we follow this woman. Out of nowhere, she finds out that her husband is gone. He's just gone. And she has to take care of his daughter from a previous marriage or something like that. And she has to take the daughter and they have to flee. She doesn't know what they're fleeing. She just knows that they have to leave and that they have to stay hidden, kind of. And she doesn't understand why. The last thing that her husband told her was to take care of Riley, which is the daughter. And it just kept me on the edge of my seat because I didn't know what was happening, just as the main character didn't know what was going on. And they started putting the pieces together, and it was just such an amazing book to read. And I really do want to own a copy of this book because it impacted me so much. And it's the first thriller book that it's the first thriller book that I read that was actually thrilling and exciting and kept me on the edge of my seat. So I definitely have to go with that book. It was amazing. 5 stars. I do recommend it if any of that sounded interesting to you, pick it up. It's amazing. And the next prompt is Starbucks. Name a book that you see everywhere. Name a book that I see everywhere. This can be a lot of books. It can be Sarah J. Maas books, like For the Roses. What more books do I see everywhere? The Heartstopper books I see everywhere. I think also I live in Sweden, so I think one specific book though. I mean, I can name a book series, or I can name an author that I see everywhere. If it's an author, it's Fredrik Backman, the author of A Man Called Ove, Beartown. So if I have to pick an author that I see everywhere, it's Fredrik Backman, because I do live in Sweden. That is also like, is it physical books or is it books on BookTube and that I see that way? Because if it's BookTube books, that really does not help though. I'm gonna say a book that I see everywhere. I'm gonna say A Court of Thorns and Roses. I feel like or The Cruel Prince. Yeah, I think maybe the Cruel Prince. The next prompt is That Hipster Coffee Shop. And the prompt is give a book by an indie author a shout out. The first thing about this is what I found the most difficult is to know which authors are indie authors and which authors are not. But the author that I know for sure is an indie author, meaning an independently published author, is one of my favorite authors, and it's Anna Walker. She has some of my favorite books. I have given a lot of her books 5 stars. My favorite books by her are Finders Keepers, where a dog, a beautiful dog. I love that book. But also the Spencer Cohen series. I love the Spencer Cohen series. Those are my favorite books by her. But she's great. She writes queer stories set usually in Australia because she's Australian. The Spencer Cohen series follows an Australian man who moved to Los Angeles, and I relate a lot to Spencer Cohen. It's like she wrote a book about me in some ways. I really, really love it. So I'm giving a shout out to Anna Walker, one of my favorite authors. The next prompt is, oops, I accidentally got decaf. Name a book you were expecting more from. There are, unfortunately, a lot of books that I could go with, but the one that I'm going with is one of the most disappointing books because I love the series. This series is one of my absolute favorite books. I adore this series so much, and I was one of the fans who had a countdown for this final book to arrive and come out, and I pre-ordered it, and it arrived, and I read it immediately, and I hated it. Imagine me. In my opinion, this does not exist. The series ends at book 4. I think yeah, I love the first 3 books, and then I can tolerate the 4th book. But the 5th book is horrible. But I thought, okay, the 5th book is just a book that is kind of a filler book that tells the story that we need to read before we get, like, between the 4th and the 6th book. The 5th book is just a filler book telling the story that we need between the 4th and the 6th book. So I did really have a lot of expectations for this book. None of them were met, and I think I either gave this 1 star or 2 stars. I hated this book so much, and I expected this to be a satisfying end to the series, because I love the series so much. I wanted it to go out with a bang, and this was not that at all. The last prompt is the perfect blend. Name a book or a series that was both bitter and sweet, but ultimately satisfying. And I'm going to go with a series that I absolutely love. I do own it, but I don't want to be bothered to go and get it. But it's I Hear the Sunspot. I love this series so much. It's a manga series, and I love it. So that was it for the Coffe Tag, coffee book reading tag kind of thing. I hope you enjoyed this, and if you want to do this tag, consider yourself tagged, and I will see you next time. Good reading. Bye.